I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Board of Leavenworth County Commissioners. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to begin with a moment of silence, please. Roll call. I'll begin with Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Shipke.
Here.
Commissioner Smith is present. Commissioner Culberson.
Here.
And Commissioner Cause.
Here.
All commissioners are present today. Do we have any public comment today on any agenda item at the beginning? Mr. Herring.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Appreciate the time to come up here. Joe Herring, Herring Surveying 315 North 5th. Again, want to thank you for allowing email comments to come in. Saves a lot of time and to try to address something as large as the comp plan. Just want to state, some key points in my email. I've always come up here and discussed property owners' rights, and I feel those are most important. Those that have invested in our county, the taxpayers. Somebody in the southeast part of the county and the northwest county part of the county should both be given the same right to be able to profit from their land in the same manner. I'm here to speak in favor of the comp plan, which may shock some of you, but I think it's a much better plan and we're in the right direction. It is a document that we'll be able to work with staff, especially in the updating of it yearly, that hopefully will be enforced through our commission and with staff. Basically all I have. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
And I think it is very important that we do revisit this comp plan every year. So hopefully we'll have that commitment from everybody here.
Cheaper that way.
Yeah. Anyone else on public comment? I believe that was it. Then we'll move on to administrative business. Mr. Lawford, is administrative business?
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, I would ask that the Board appoint a temporary chairperson for the singular purpose of signing a subdivision plat that had been previously approved.
Okay.
A motion to nominate one of the four of you would be appropriate.
I'll make a motion to approve Commissioner Culbertson as interim chairperson.
Second. Have a motion and second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
Abstain?
Abstain. Did Vicky vote?
Commissioner Cause?
She's thinking about it. We need some volume.
It's not coming through very well
I
today.
believe I heard Commissioner Cause.
Commissioner Cause voted aye. Okay. All right. Motion passed. Okay. Any other administrative business this time?
Not at this time.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. The commissioners had every opportunity to look at everything over on the consent agenda. Is there anything that needs to be pulled off and voted on separately?
Mr. Cause requests that the check registry be removed from the consent agenda.
Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the check registry.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Cause votes aye.
All right. Then I'll entertain a motion to approve the check registry.
I'll make a motion to approve the check registry. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Cause abstains.
Okay.
Mark, just one question. I'm excited to see all the CARES funding being allocated to the different municipalities. Is there any funds outstanding in that regard as far as request? I know that we've submitted for feedback or quasi-approval, whatever that looks like at the state, given their guidelines changes daily, weekly. Just didn't know if we had any others that were hanging out there.
I think at any given time we probably have some open requests just because the cities and some of the fire districts and townships are coming in at different times. So, yes, I would say we have some that are open. We're not waiting on any from the state at this point, though.
Okay.
In fact, I just had one this morning come in. So they just trickle in throughout the month. So, but our staff is doing a pretty good job of trying to keep up with those.
Okay, good deal.
Okay. So, are we ready for the acceptance of a property acquisition? Who will be taking care of that?
Commissioners, believe there is a representative from St. Luke's here that would like to make a presentation to the Board of County Commissioners. Have them come forward at this time.
Hi, Adele Ducharme, CEO for St. Luke's Cushing Hospital. I would like to make a recommendation that we are wanting to donate the property that we have from St. Luke's Cushing Hospital, the property there, to the county. This is also in agreement with our St. Luke's Cushing Foundation board, who is also wanting to do this move. We feel that this property can be best suited to benefit the people of Leavenworth, and would appreciate, and we feel that this would be a good use for that property as we vacate it.
I agree. And on behalf of the commissioners, I'd like to say that the commissioners are committed to making certain the legacy of Harriet Cushing will continue by using the facility that bears her name that serves residents of Leavenworth County. Potential uses include moving existing county services to the building, expanding services available for our aging and youth population, expanding health services available to the county, and offering building space to nonprofit and other organizations. And I want to thank Commissioner Cause for taking this and working with you folks. The board couldn't be involved because it'd be in open meetings, and Commissioner Cause took this and with her connections and her past experience, and I just can't say enough about how Commissioner Cause and you folks work together on this. And I want to thank you.
And thank you for all the help you gave us as well.
And
thank you.
As long as I'm around, and I'm sure a few others, we will make sure that building goes to good use. And then years and years down the road, as long as we're still members of the community.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I didn't know if there might be somebody from the foundation that wanted to speak today. Is there anybody that would like to?
I think we need to recognize everyone that's here today that was a part of this.
No, I'd like to thank the commissioners and thank the folks at St. Luke's for everything you've done. We at the foundation just really wanted to see the building go to the medical benefit of the community. That's our goal, and we think this is a great resolution for this situation. We appreciate everyone's help in these efforts. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm speaking for the board, but I know we appreciate it because there's no way that we could have ever afforded to build a building of that. And it's just, this is a big deal for us. And we will be good stewards of it. Anyone else?
I think it would be appropriate for the board to, and Mr. Van Paris can correct me here at any time, but to make a motion to accept the donation of the property commonly known as Cushing. And we will have the formal approval on the agenda next week with the the donation of that property.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, a formalized donation agreement has been prepared and reviewed between the parties, and that will be presented to you, as Mr. Lawfrey stated. It would be appropriate this morning, though, to vote to accept the donation from the St. Luke's Cushing Foundation.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the Cushing Hospital, St. Luke's Cushing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on accepting the property? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Costos, aye.
All right. Commissioner Cos, thank you for all the work you've done in getting us here, because I know you've put in a lot of time on this.
Well, I'd also like to give a special thanks to Blaine Weeks.
Yes.
who
I don't see
I
Blaine here
worked with.
today. Blaine, that's probably the empty seat back there. That's true. I forgot. Yeah, we want to recognize Blaine Weeks and everybody that was involved with this, because, like I said, this is huge for us. Like I said, there's just no way we could have ever built a building like this, or even purchased a building like this. So, for the taxpayers of Leavenworth County, this is huge. So, I want to thank you again.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is one of my goals when I ran, was to stop paying rent for Council on Aging, to save the taxpayers that money every year.
You didn't realize it'd be.
I didn't know it'd be this good, but yeah.
And not just only that building.
Yeah, we can move a lot more in
We can
there
move
too.
a lot more in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said.
Commissioners, I know that we won't be able to shake hands and some of that, but if you would maybe take just a minute or two out of your agenda today to get a picture maybe with a few of the folks that are here today representing both St. Luke's and the foundation, that might be appropriate if you would like to.
Would we want to do that out by the rotunda?
Maybe out in the rotunda where there's room for people to social distance. So if you could just maybe take a couple minutes for that, if that'd be okay.
Okay, we can do that right now. Let's get our pictures. How do we want to do this, folks? John, you got any recommendations? You're the professional photographer.
As close to as you
Can we do it in front of here?
Put them in front.
You want to do it out there where there's more room?
Okay, we can do it out in the rotunda.
Yeah. It's a little more photogenic out there, too. The lighting's better in the dark.
You can't see.
Yeah.
Can't see us.
That's right. You doing okay there?
What? Yeah.
Is it?
No.
Knee or foot?
But then my wife told me I have to call this number today. I'll just do it, having so much problem with this.
I've been there since March 17th, so there's no difference for me. No, it's okay.
Okay. It's hot in here, isn't it?
I don't think so. Maybe you got that.
Seems hot to me.
Better.
Is it hot in here, Bill?
Better temperature they got.
Yeah, I think it's pretty warm.
I do too.
I've got this coat on and this mask, so I
Let's hurry to get through this.
Bill, I forgot to include you on an email I sent this morning. I'll forward it to you.
Yeah.
I was in South Dakota pheasant hunting, and I go down this gravel road because towards the end of the day, usually just doing some road hunting and all the ditches and everything. And this gravel, bare bones gravel road, posted 55.
Yeah, there you go.
Almost single lane gravel road, and I go, to their defense, you can see about 100 miles because it's so damn flat.
Mm-hmm.
But I go, everybody back home will
But
love
still,
this.
it's 55 when you get somebody.
No, that's true.
Yeah. And then you go, well, if I go 55, I'll go 60.
What's Montana? Isn't Montana like 85? Or is
Well, it is on like hard surface.
There's a couple. There was a couple unlimited. I don't know if they still got them or not.
Got the Autobahn. Huh?
In Montana.
No speed limits at all.
No, there was. I don't know if they still do, but I know they used to.
Did we get back all the phase 1, phase 2 results?
For speed limit?
Cushing?
Oh, Cushing.
I think that's the part of the agreement on the acceptance of it.
Okay. I was pretty sure that was a contingency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't take a toxic waste. We lose everybody. Did we lose Commissioner Stevens?
Let me go get
Would
Holiday.
it come to anyone's surprise that Mike might be shaking hands? Can't kiss babies anymore, but.
I know he can't walk too far.
Too fast.
Walking better. You are. That's good. But still, I got to go get checked out. So, anyways, all right. Well, we're back in here, and we're ready for Public Works. Mr. Knoll, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good.
All right. The first item we have for your consideration today is pretty much just an administrative item. We had a request from property owner that Commissioner Stephen and I met with to place a stop sign at a 3-way intersection. Property owner reported that there had been a sign at that location in the past. Staff at both downstairs and at the county shop don't report that there's ever been a sign at that location. Regardless, what we have here before you today is a resolution to stop southbound traffic on 246th at its intersection with Knight Road. This is a stop sign that will control traffic to 4 or 5 residences at the top of the hill, but it is an uncontrolled intersection that we do have here in the county, and so when you're only stopping one-way traffic on a 3-way intersection, it does not require a study. So administratively, you have this for your consideration here today.
Okay. Do we know how many unsigned intersections we have this time?
No, we don't have a count on them. We will have some more coming forward, probably. We've had a lot of requests. We have some yield signs that enter into some dust abatement roadways. Specifically, I know
219th and Kissinger's a yield sign. Yeah. Has been for years.
That's one of the ones we have had multiple requests to put a stop sign in. And so, no, I don't have a count.
There's a lot.
There's a couple.
A couple, yeah. So, okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-42.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
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 Commissioner Costos, aye.
All right. Thank you. The next item we have for consideration today is the acceptance of the construction bids for the Eisenhower Road project. Low bid was submitted by King's Construction of Oskaloosa. We did have a good number of bids on this project. We had 9 total bids, which was a good turnout for bidding on the project. The base bid for the project is $5,883,421. That is significantly below the engineer's estimate of $7,175,937. Bid alternate number 1 is the sidewalks for your consideration on the south side or the Lansing side of the project. This item did go before their board or their city council, and they will not be providing any funding towards this improvement, and they did not make any formal requests for the improvement to be included today. I think they had conflicting opinions regarding the future maintenance and responsibility of the sidewalk. So they did not put forth a formal request for it to be approved. I know there are some there that wanted it to be approved and some that had no comment. The second bid alternate item is the street light at 20th Street. That is a alternate item for $260,950. Engineer's estimate for the street light placement was $300,000. Both the city of Leavenworth and the city of Lansing were clear that they expect the county to include this as a base item and accept this bid alternate. And they both declined to offer any cost sharing or funding towards that cost. So I guess with that information, I will turn it over to the board for their consideration and discussion, and try to answer any questions that you may have.
Commissioners have any questions? Mr. Knoll?
Bill, I was just going to ask, I was excited to see anytime bids come in under estimates. Remind me what the contingency is for in-county versus out-of-county, like what the benefit was or is as a percentage.
It is a percentage with a capped value. And so if I'm not mistaken, I don't have that policy in front of me, but it's 5%, not to exceed $25,000, I believe. So that's correct. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that is currently the county policy on local purchasing.
Question on the sidewalk funding. That is not contingent or part of the bid process from getting any MARC funds providing a sidewalk.
This is all county money.
Well, so there was no MARC. I just want to verify that there's no funding from outside requiring that sidewalk or that it would jeopardize any other funding.
No, that's correct. It will not jeopardize any funding. This is going to be paid through the sales tax fund. Solely by Leavenworth County residents or Leavenworth County purchases.
So if we redirected the funds, it would not cause us to lose any grant funding from any other source?
No, it would not, and grading will still be completed as a part of the project for the future placement of the sidewalk. And so there will be an acceptable location for grading for a future sidewalk placement, regardless of whether we have the concrete placed at this time.
So my thing that I'd like to throw out, just for discussion, is I add those two. It's $432,750. That if we make a savings and adjustment here, we could put that towards improvements on County Road 30 or 158.
I think you can't lose sight that when we say Leavenworth County and Leavenworth County residents, that includes all the residents of Leavenworth City, Lansing City.
I understand that, but to me, this is a modest cut. I mean, we're talking about a stoplight where I think, is it correct that the feasibility study for the stoplight indicated that there would not be a need for the stoplight within the next 15 years?
When I looked at the report, did I read it right when it looked like it said there wasn't even half as much traffic as required for a stoplight for today?
Commissioner, the traffic study that was performed by an engineering firm for that intersection does not indicate a current or near future need for a traffic signaled intersection, that the current signage would be adequate.
That's what I thought I read.
So, this significant amount of money for something that's really not needed at this time.
Well, the sidewalks haven't been officially asked for.
Right, and they didn't.
So that shouldn't even be involved.
Right.
We're talking. I think the only thing we need to talk about is the signal light, the stoplight.
And I think it said that they wouldn't meet the traffic count for 10 years.
This is Commissioner Cox.
Go ahead.
I strongly support the placement of the light signal at this time. The taxpayers have taken into the sales tax from the city of Leavenworth and Lansing, and they continue to. Both of those municipalities have requested that traffic signal be included in this project, and so I firmly support that. Now, if Lansing is not interested or, may have issues with maintaining a sidewalk, I could see pulling that from as the pulling alternate 2. but I believe that we should respect the request of the City of Leavenworth and the City of Lansing moving forward with this project.
And Vicki, I just add to that. I mean, it seems like I see a lot of projects where foresight was maybe lacking, and we're not forecasting out growth, and whether we're being too aggressive or not. To Jeff's point, it never gets any cheaper to do the work than it does when you're already there, disturbing all elements of the project. So when I think about a McIntyre, for example, that was one of these projects that we didn't put in any of the infrastructure that we should have. At the same time, we did the road. That seems foolish. Whether or not there's development there now, there's likely to be development in the future. So at the same time, I don't see how this is any different, especially when you're talking about your two biggest tax bases being Lansing and Leavenworth.
And I totally agree with
forecasting
you.
the growth.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I'm just thinking if we need to decide what needs to be done first, I'm just going off of the traffic study that says it doesn't need a light right now. I get the whole left pocket, right pocket thing. Is it city tax money or county tax money? Do we do it now or do we do it 10 years down the road? But to your point, do we need to forecast something that's more important to do with that money right now than spend it on a stoplight? I'm just going off of the traffic study. So it doesn't matter to me either way whether we put the light in or we pay for it, the city pays for it, we do it now, we do it in 10 years. I'm just basing it on what the traffic study said.
And we're not saying that we would at some point come back and do the traffic light, but we have these other projects where there's seems like are a higher priority.
You don't want to know what I think of stoplights. Yeah. Period. It won't go well. We make national news if I talk about stoplights.
Again.
At the same time, again, that's if that's what the city has requested, if that was part of the original scope, I don't think it's our place to unwind that. Now, if it came in over estimates, and if this was if these were tax dollars outside of, again, you got your two biggest taxing entities in Leavenworth and Lansing, then maybe I'd look at it a little bit differently. But the fact that those councils have asked for it and there's an expectation in the original scope, I think this is an example of why sometimes there's some great animosity between the county and the cities is us not trying to work together. This could clearly be more.
This is actually one of them. It did end up in court.
Yeah.
So we all got to spend some legal
right
on that.
Well, I just
not
would like
to pay
to,
for the stoplight problem.
I mean, if the traffic study doesn't call for a light there, then why would we waste that $260,000 on putting a stoplight in there when we have a lot of projects that are very critical?
The county's dumping this road once it's done. It goes over to the city for maintenance. So we're basically we're getting rid of a road it's kind of a tough one to maintain. It's the traffic that's on it right now, what we got. So, like I said, I know you don't build anything any cheaper than when you're building it. Do I agree with how it all came about? No. But we are getting rid of a road for someone else to maintain. It's a high traffic road.
But as we've discussed, we're having a hard time keeping up with the roads we currently have to maintain.
That's why I like to get rid of as many as we can to the cities.
Sure, understood.
If we made these kind of priority adjustments, though, we have $500,000 from Tonganoxie that they resubmitted, and then if we made this adjustment, we would get it up to add that $432,000,
almost $1 million.
Close to $1 million that could go towards a major project, and it's not the kind of adjustment that is going to be that significant at this time because the traffic study says we don't actually need the light there right now.
This is Commissioner Paz. This is a major project for Leavenworth County and for future growth of Leavenworth County. And I believe that in anticipation of that growth, we need to look to the future. And again, I strongly support the placement of that traffic signal. You will not place it less expensively 10 years down the road.
I doubt if you make it 10 years once you build the road.
Exactly.
And I just feel like the traffic study didn't support the light, and I think we could spend the money on something else more important.
And what would we spend the money on? Would it be County Road 30?
County Road 30, the
58th Street.
the feasibility study maybe for the Eastern Gateway. I could think of a couple things.
And this is the kind of a budget priority decision that because of that traffic study, it's not going to be, it's a light impact where we could have a significant impact on some of these other things that we're trying to do.
This is Commissioner Cobb. What is the date of the last traffic study at that intersection?
Commissioner Cause, I'm holding a Wilson Company memorandum dated September 3rd, 2020.
Well, as an individual who uses that intersection on a daily basis, I believe that it would be safer to have a traffic signal placed there because of the site issues of the traffic that are traveling from the west to the east.
I'll add one comment. I don't believe that the traffic study provides any time frame, like you guys have discussed here today, of like a 10-year horizon or a 15-year horizon date. What it does is it gives a list of developments that would need to occur at that location. So just throwing it out there that they're not saying that they did not do a study that said this is how quickly the development will occur. Their study indicated this is the type of development that is anticipated that needs to be made.
This is Commissioner Cos. There are several additional subdivisions that are in progress or in planning phases that would utilize that intersection.
Okay.
Typically 176 lots.
So what was the number? Forget the sidewalks because that hasn't been formally requested. So you're at 200 and what?
$260,950.
Yep. Over $250,000.
If it, I think it was less than half of the number for the threshold suggested for a light is the only thing I'm going off of. I mean, if it was even half of the number, then I would say, yeah, maybe we should start thinking about it. But I mean, and Vicki, I know I use that intersection too. At 7:30 in the morning, it's pretty bad. But the rest of the day, for the 23 hours a day, it's less than.
I disagree. I use that intersection more than just at 7:30 in the morning. I use it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, very often at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and at both of those times it is equally as busy.
Well, we have multiple intersections around the county that I'm sure are very, very busy, but we don't have traffic lights.
You'd be hard pressed to find one that.
I understand that, but this was a project that was discussed, that was a project that the City of Leavenworth, the City of Lansing, and Leavenworth County discussed the scope and the desires of all the interested parties, and at the initial point of discussion, the traffic signal was something that was requested to be included in this project, and so I believe that we need to move forward with approving the traffic signal at this project.
And I'm with Doug. I'll just be glad to get this done.
Pass it off to someone else.
Yeah.
Bill, or maybe it's for Mark. So circling back though, just again from my understanding when I was asking about when and if we have the opportunity to spend millions of dollars locally, I'd love to do that if and when it's credible and it comes at a benefit to the county. But why is the threshold set at? So there's a percentage and then there's a 25,000, and I'd say that several $1 million being spent locally has a pretty sizable impact. So walk me through the mathematics of that, if you would.
That's our current purchasing policy, Commissioner, that at some point in time that 5% becomes a significant enough amount that at the time that purchasing policy was approved, the Board of County Commissioners did not believe they could justify the offset. So simply giving preference to a local vendor because they were local for a 5% on a project like this, which would be $200 and some $1,000, I think.
It's under $2.
But the $25,000, that was the threshold at the time that the purchasing policy was approved. That they felt like as long as it was $25,000, that's fine. If we went over that $25,000 threshold, they felt like then the return was not worth the cost, I guess. So that's just part of our current purchasing policy. And one thing I would point out,
well, I've never been one to challenge policy by any stretch of the imagination. I'm curious in that mathematics around it. So, for example, if you had a new business in Leavenworth County that generated $6 or $7 million in new sales, the financial benefit to the city and the county specifically is what? Because a $25,000 threshold, just to have a threshold, is a nebulous number to me. When you're talking about this size of project. You see my point?
I would like to remove the $25,000 cap. I don't understand it either. 5% makes sense, but I don't understand the cap. The cap makes no sense to me at all.
Yeah, and again, I think at the time the county commissioners considered it. It was anticipating projects like this. Let's say it was the $7 million project. That's $350,000 that you're giving in addition to what the bid is, just because of the zip code that the business happens to be located in. That was the thought process. It's a policy decision that this board can make. It's just that our current purchasing policy, which we are required to follow, that is the language within it. That is the language. So, and the other thing I wanted to point out, and I'm sorry it's not on that, Commissioner, was that as we're discussing these numbers for the stoplight, the original estimate was $7 million, say $7.2 million. We came in about $1,400,000 below that. So even if you add the street light back in for $260,000, you're still over $1 million under what the original engineer's estimate was. So those funds, while they're not just out there floating that we can now use them for whatever, they could be, that's what we had earmarked for this project. That could now be then reallocated towards the projects you're discussing.
The difference.
So.
Okay.
And even a little bit more if we didn't put in the stoplight, which was not recommended by the study.
There would be $260,000 more.
Yes. Commissioner Paz, I don't think $260,000 is worth diminishing the goodwill that we're building with the city of Lansing and the city of Leavenworth.
Okay.
And of course, they're not matching any of the funding.
Well, is that what you're thinking, that maybe that we should go thirds on it?
Well, I'm just saying they're not matching any of this funding. They're just expecting us to pick up the tab, and then they're going to take it.
Just remember where the funding comes from.
This is Commissioner Cos. This is Commissioner Cos. I would venture that given the population of the city of Leavenworth and Lansing combined, that the sales tax that have been paid by those residents, that it does justify that we consider that their contribution to paying for that road and allow for the traffic signal that they have requested.
Well, it's a priority decision. That's what it is.
But that's sales tax money the city got.
Those city councils have came in here and presented, right, their leadership and have recommended, obviously, approval for those alternates. And I'm just suggesting that, again, you may disagree with what the decision of that council was, and we're not always going to see eye to eye. But those residents are the ones that elected them. And so I'm not, here to sit here and second guess every decision that they may make. If their residents made up the largest portion of that dollar amount, and they're the ones that put them there making those recommendations and decisions, I mean, I think you have to.
But they're making recommendations for us to spend our money.
And to Vicky, to your point, the city got that sales tax money too.
What was that, Jay?
And to Vicky's point, the city received sales tax money too.
Right.
I mean, it's the left pocket, right pocket thing. So,
right. I mean, we have a lot of projects that we are not having enough resources to be able to,
That's every project we don't have enough money for.
and to put a stoplight in where we have a traffic study that says that it's not needed at this time, to me, that's a waste of taxpayers' money.
That's what I'm stuck on. We got it.
It's just completely a waste.
See, and I'm sitting here this morning thinking we already saved $3 or $4 million of taxpayer money.
With the hospital.
We didn't build a building.
Yeah,
That's true.
I think it's probably more than that.
Just as an example.
We're just trying to save $250,000 more.
Yeah, $260,000 that could go towards County Road 30. Actually, it's $432,000.
What if we?
Well, yeah, because sidewalks, nobody ever requested.
What if we pay? What if we paid half for leave the sidewalks out and pay half for the light?
Is that your motion?
Commissioner Cos, I do not support that.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. I would have liked to have something else added to your motion. No change orders. That's all right.
Put that in everyone.
But we can deny them when they come forward, if they come forward. So I have a motion and a second.
Just to be clear, we don't have any more discussion on what the impact of spending locally in an instance like this could have.
I want to revisit the cap on.
Well, we can revisit the policy and the cap. I'm just still trying to figure out that analysis can't be that difficult to do.
Commissioner Shimke, it's generally referred to as the multiplier effect when local spending comes into play, and that varies not to a decimal point, but somewhere between 3 and 4. A multiplier factor.
3 or 4x?
Yes.
So when we talk about, I return on investment over, less than $200,000.
So we have a motion and a second, and it was just for the stoplight. Was it to award the contract to King's Construction? Or is it just for the stoplight?
If we're not going to revisit the cap, then yeah,
Okay.
leave the sidewalks out. We'll pay half for the stoplight.
And award it to the low bid?
Award it to low bid. King Construction.
So is your second still good?
Yeah, absolutely.
And any further discussion?
And hopefully we'll be done.
And let's put this thing back.
Yeah.
All right, no further discussion? Voting?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Okay.
So just to be clear, we didn't spend locally and we didn't fund a stoplight.
Half 50%.
Okay.
So if the other party doesn't put in the rest of the money, do we just get a half a stoplight?
Just put it on one side.
Okay. I'm going to be sitting here quite a while.
The city will have to agree to that.
Major regression.
This is Commissioner Cos. I just want to say that we really made a decision that is not in the best interest of our county as a whole, and in a decision that disrespects the city's governing bodies of Lansing and Leavenworth.
Okay.
Well, we have a traffic study. I mean, my whole thing is that the traffic study. That's what this is based on.
And we'll pay half.
And the county's gone more than its.
Well, we've spent a lot of money over the past year on roads that did not step up to and reflect that very thing.
This is a city street and a city intersection, and we're going to pay half for a stoplight. That's the way I see it.
That the city is going to take over paying the maintenance of that we have paid for the maintenance of in the past.
Because it's in the city limits.
Okay. All right.
I mean, my actual opinion is we shouldn't have paid for any of it. So I think the city should be very.
If I would have been here when this all started,
Right.
I don't even know why we're involved in a city street and a city intersection.
And especially when you have a traffic study. I mean, we have traffic studies going on down at K32 and 158th, and where there's needs for things across the county. And then we have traffic studies as we don't need a traffic light there, and we're going to spend $260,000 on a traffic light.
Well, the voters passed this. This was on a ballot. This to do Eisenhower. The study came in. Mr. John Forsland was with Public Works at the time as buildings and grounds engineer. He came up with the alternative at the time to put in the conduit and have it plumbed ready for it, because they knew when they built the road you're going to have increased traffic, and the study may change, and everybody that was involved knew that you're never going to build it any cheaper than at the time you're doing it when it's under construction. You're not going to come back in, and you especially don't want to come back in and tear up asphalt and concrete to do this. So it was going to be basically plumbed ready for a stoplight in the future, because I knew there was going to be a stoplight there in the future.
And I'm all for working with the city, so I'm just saying we'll meet you halfway.
Right.
I'm ready to move on.
Yep. So anyway, so anything else from Mr. Knoll? Then thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks.
We're ready for Crystal, I believe. How are you today?
Good morning, Crystal.
Good morning.
Let me see what I do with my papers. Okay. We're not going through this page by page, are we?
Oh, yeah, of course we are.
Okay.
You guys didn't want to go to lunch
There's
today,
a
did you?
Port Authority meeting, I believe. A couple
Oh,
folks
no.
are going to attend at 11:30.
Don't even worry about
All
it.
right.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. No, I will not go through this document page by page.
Okay.
We have, before
Get
you...
worried when that PowerPoint comes on.
We have a request for resolution 2020-41, which is a request to approve the final draft of Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan. I will not belabor the point that we have been working on this for over a year now. I believe you are all very familiar with the public outreach that we did, with the way that we worked with Olson, the comprehensive plan consultant, on developing this plan with significant input from this board, from the Planning Commission, and from the residents of Leavenworth County. Mr. Boone is here, and he will give a short presentation, but I'd like to go over just a couple of things first. First, does anybody have any questions about how we got here? I think we all know how we got here, but
I don't.
Okay.
The commissioners.
great. So earlier this month, I took this plan to the Planning Commission, and they did request a couple of changes. Those changes have been made. One of the changes was I gave you a map this morning, the future land use map, and what we had requested is that anything that was already zoned as business or industrial, where originally the future land use map was covering that with a down zoning, that be removed. So you can see on your map there are a couple of kind of brownish gray spots, and what we're doing there is we're just indicating that whatever that current existing zoning is, that's what the proposed zoning is. We didn't change the colors simply because that would have made this map would have started to get pretty confusing. So just so you know, that change has been made. That was one of the larger changes from the Planning Commission. I believe there are a couple of spots down south of I-70 where it looks like we need to amend the residential zoning district. We have kind of a pocket of R5 inside of an R2.5 zoning district.
Okay, good. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, so we can get that changed. I don't think that should delay adopting the plan. That's a change that can be made relatively easily if this board agrees to that. They also had requested that the coloring on the map be amended slightly to make it clear, like along County Road 1, which that change has been made. The Planning Commission also requested a glossary of terms. However, they did not provide any terms that they needed defined. I had asked, but wasn't given anything. So the consultants did go through and they identified a couple of things that, well, maybe we could go ahead and define that. But again, that was a change that was difficult to make because it was requested, but there was no input provided with it. And then also there was a request about making sure that terminology within the comprehensive plan matches terminology within our current zoning and subdivision regulations. I believe we've done that to the best of our ability. I will say, you all know, I believe that our current zoning and subdivision regulations are outdated. That is one of the goals of the comprehensive plan, is for us to update our zoning and subdivision regulations. And so when we do that, that will be the perfect time to make sure that all the terminology matches, as opposed to trying to piecemeal together between this document and the zoning and subdivision regulations. So I believe that it's pretty close. I don't think that there are any huge outstanding issues. I really, truly don't. And any outstanding issues that we do have, I think should honestly be addressed when we update our zoning and subdivision regulations. To bring those up to current standards, as opposed to taking terminology in our comprehensive plan, using terminology from 25 or 30 years ago, if that makes sense to this board.
That's why it's so important that we revisit this every year for any
Absolutely.
adjustments, tweak it, and just do not put this on the shelf and leave it.
Absolutely. And that brings me to, yes, Commissioner?
I just looked at that.
Okay. That brings me to one of my other points. One of the best parts about this plan, I believe, is that final chapter on implementation, and there's a matrix within that. I hope everybody's had a chance to look at it. It identifies many priorities that Leavenworth County needs to be moving towards. It also gives timelines. It gives gatekeepers, so who should be involved in that, and it talks about what the barriers to implementation would be. Some of those things are really easy. Some of those things are making sure that this plan lives online, which is something we should absolutely do. This is 2020. There's no reason at all that anyone from the public couldn't get online and easily find our comprehensive plan and any updates that have been made to it. So that's a really easy change to make. There are some changes, again, like updating our zoning and subdivision regulations. It's going to take a little bit of money. It's going to take a little bit of time. However, it's a relatively easy update. There are other things that request additional study. Those are things that are maybe a 3 to 5 year timeline that we would need to get into our capital improvements plan and such, if this board or a future board decided that those additional studies were necessary. I think that's one of the best things about this document, is it very clearly lays out the direction we should be heading and gives a really good idea of when we should be accomplishing those things. After the adoption of this plan, which I hope is relatively soon, my hope is that this board, our planning commission, and staff are all able to sit down and identify 3 goals a year. These are the things that we want to achieve. This is what we're moving towards. And then we will move towards those things. We will move towards making sure those items get implemented. And at the end of the year, we'll sit down again and we'll say, what did we achieve? What did we not achieve? Why didn't we achieve it? And that will be part of our update. I believe that's something that has not occurred with the previous plan. And it's a shame. Frankly, it's a shame that it didn't occur. That previous plan certainly went on a shelf.
So I do have one question. If I didn't look at the matrix real close, but is the anticipation that the Planning Commission once a year would revisit this document and kind of recommend any changes that they would recommend, and then they'll move them up to us?
Yeah, so that would be part of the updating process. But again, I do feel that this needs to be fairly collaborative between the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioner, right? The Board of County Commission sets the direction for the county, sets policy. It's the responsibility of staff and the Planning Commission to follow that policy. So I think that it would be best that we're all on the same page when we are goal setting, is essentially, and then, like I said, we would come back and see how we did. What could we change? But yes, that would absolutely be part of it. And certainly the Planning Commission, they have a much more hands-on experience with land use matters. That's what their role is, right? Is to really dive, roll up their shirt sleeves and really dive in to land use issues. So they may absolutely come across things in 6 months or even 6 years that says, hey, we really need to change this. So let's work towards adopting or amending this particular segment. Of course, that would come up to the Board of County Commissioners for approval.
Okay, now, and on this issue of filling in the islands, we had visited about like below I-70 and below 2440. Are you saying that all the islands there would become 2.5?
So the primary island that I see, Commissioner, is that one that is between I-70 and Linwood 32 Highway. I certainly see what you are referencing, and I think if it is the consensus of this board to amend those additional areas, then certainly that's something that we would do. Some of those areas, like south of Linwood Road down to the river, I believe those areas, much of that is gravel, and that's a larger area than maybe it looks like on this map. But again, if it's the consensus of the board, then certainly we would make.
Well, you just have a lot of people moving in from Lawrence into that area, and they're going to be.
We certainly, that's definitely a growing part of the county, and again, that's something that could be amended in the future as road projects come through. We could amend that, and again, if it's the consensus of the board today, we can amend it today.
Well, the two things I was looking at on the pockets or changes in the planned use areas was I didn't like seeing like 5 acre zone up against a 1 acre zone. Stair step it with a 2.5 in between, and or same zoning on the same on both sides of the road. So there's a couple of instances where I saw 1 acre on one side of the road and 5 acres on the other side of the road. So I'd like to see more same zone on both sides of the road.
Commissioner,
did you get this updated one?
Yeah.
And where are you seeing this?
Well, I County Road 1, 214th Street.
Oh,
that's County Road 1 corridor, though, so we have to look at it. But
right.
I'm just saying, watch out for. I don't want to go down the same path we went on the old comprehensive plan where you had
2.5 on one side. Well, we dealt with that last summer.
Yeah, 10 acres on one side and 1 acre on the other side of the same road. That doesn't make sense.
Well, if you look at this area here, right, that butts up against the County Road 1. Most of this County Road 1 area here is 2.5, but you've got
and then that's broke down to its own.
A little 5 acre
right.
island there.
Yeah.
So I think we would take care of most of it if we said below 2440 and below I-70, all the islands
and
2.5.
And I didn't want to get hung up on the details, just like Crystal was saying. There's a few things to tweak. To me, what we're really adopting is a breathing document. I just want to make sure that the yearly update is in what we're adopting, because the old plan was 20 years old, and I think it was only updated one time in 28 years.
Probably looked at it one time.
Yeah, so I want to make sure we don't do that.
Make that part of your motion.
Yeah, that the annual update is part of it. Because there's like this is showing County Road 30, 2.5 acres all the way down it. It's not paved yet, so that needs fixed. It doesn't have, as far as the proposed major roads transportation plan, our 152 Eastern Gateway is still hooked to McIntyre, not Eisenhower. The bicycle path in the feasibility study, we were trying to put a bicycle path in the Eastern Gateway. That's not in the bicycle path thing. Utility infrastructures, we just put a major power line from the Nebraska wind farms through the county. It's not on here. So I'm not really saying we need to adopt this exact stagnant PDF map. What I'm looking more for is, here's a template. The annual updates need to be adhered to, is my point.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that end, the Eastern Gateway study, as you know, that is a relatively recent amendment, right? So those things, and at one point we were talking about McIntyre, and that has changed, and that's just going to be, that's a part of the planning process. So some of those things will need to be updated in the future. We certainly wouldn't want to go back and amend something that is still a concept, right? Like the Eastern Gateway, because it could change again.
Yeah.
So These documents should work together as opposed to just being standalone documents.
Yeah. So to me, we've done a lot of homework and moved this thing way past where the old comprehensive plan was. So
even in a year of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it would have been done a lot earlier if the world hadn't changed.
Yeah.
But it's the annual review that I'm after adopting.
With that being said, on your annual review, the world has changed a lot since we started this. So
that's true too. I think David had a question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, if I could follow up on the presentation Crystal gave to you and follow up on Commissioner Culberson's comments, and that is the annual review. It is required by state law. The current comprehensive plan of the county is rather dated. It's roughly a third of my age, and it should have long ago been amended and or reviewed. This is captioned as the adoption of a comprehensive plan, not as the amending of a current comprehensive plan, because quite frankly, your current comprehensive plan is so outdated it is in need of complete replacement. If you are required by law to annually task the Planning Commission with reviewing your comprehensive plan. And I think from the comments Commissioner Culbertson has with respect to the bike trail, the utility line, the Eastern Gateway concept, there are changes that occur on an ongoing basis that need to be reviewed by the Planning Commission and this board. It has not been done in the past. The county's remiss on that. So part of your resolution is an annual review, and I strongly encourage this board and future boards to implement that.
Comments on if we were to update the islands below I-70 and 2440 to the 2.5, is that something we could?
You could do that right now.
Right now,
I'd like to, sure.
So do you think we need to table this and have them do these few updates and then bring it back next week, or can we approve it and say make the needed changes as requested?
Commissioner Culbertson, I believe you could make noted changes on the record today and adopt a comprehensive plan.
This is Commissioner Cost. Can we reread or read the noted changes?
Is the board in consensus about everything south of 2440 and I-70 being amended to RR 2.5?
Not everything. The islands that are currently identified as 5-acre residential estates would be changed to the residential 2.5-acre minimum south of 2440.
Okay. And would that be
everything
south if we drew
south, that's right.
If State Avenue went all the way over to the county line, is that the line we're going to use, or are we going to use how it goes around Tonganoxie?
My understanding is that south of 2440, the board can make whatever motion.
That's why I was thinking maybe table it, have them make all the changes so we can look at it again and make sure we got everything everybody's thinking on the same page and just bring it back.
Well, but when Commissioner Stevens mentioned earlier, we're getting a lot of growth from people moving out of the Lawrence area.
Yeah,
that wouldn't catch the southwest corner of the county.
You're talking about between 2440 and like around Tonganoxie area.
No, it'd be south of Tonganoxie, Reno area.
So Evans Road.
Evans Road down there. If you took State Avenue straight across, instead of turning through Tonganoxie and drew the line there.
And this is why I was thinking maybe we take a week and look at it.
I think that's a better idea.
Yeah.
There is some development out in there.
And so add things like that.
You think it's because it's the only place that has a real interstate system?
Well, yeah, could be.
Maybe better, 3 whole highways.
Maybe better internet too.
Who'd have thunk it?
We need some better.
Commissioner Claus, I think we have spent a year looking at the proposed comprehensive plan, and so I think that we should be able to make any adjustments to the plan today and move forward.
Okay. Then let's adjust the line where you're
State Avenue runs straight right to the county line.
Yep.
So from here,
Correct.
can you see my cursor? Okay, so everything.
He was saying use Evans Road, but
Right.
Yeah.
Come through Evans Road, everything south of Evans Road,
And
unless
then
it's
south, and then south of 2440.
right. So all of this, unless of course it's zoned like this here.
I think I mentioned Evans Road, and I only did that because it's what I can see on the map.
Yeah.
I think what Commissioner Smith had said is if you just extended 2440
Avenue,
straight across to the county
went
line,
straight across the county
everything
line
south of there would then be.
And Vicki, I agree with what you're saying. That's why I was just asking, should we make some changes, bring it back next week, or can we just do it now? Because, like I said, it's a breathing document.
I think we can pass this today.
Yeah, and it's not the zoning map, so.
I would like to point out something really quickly.
Okay.
So if we take 2440 and just go straight across, right? We don't have a roadway to line up. We're going to split parcels.
So you want to do Evans?
So Evans, or I'm not exactly sure what this may actually
Don't
be.
you live on state line, off the state?
No, I live 252nd.
I know, but you're close to state.
Yeah, close. Evans. I mean, either one of those, you're going to catch everything that we're
right. I think Evans is a pretty, because it already lines up there with that 2.5 acre zoning. It's pretty well lines up with 2440.
And you're out there by the Rocking Sea subdivision, also to the county line.
All right.
That's your area.
Yeah, that's good. I'm good with that.
Okay.
Because I just know there's a lot of growth going on out there, and it is from Lawrence area. You know, Basher's catching the Kansas City area.
Well, it's just, it's not going to be fair to somebody that, this is landlocked into a little island of 5, but over the neighbor's 2.5.
And you can put 2.5 together if you want 5.
Right.
I believe you did something similar, didn't you?
Well, we have 10.
But you bought it just for that. I mean, you can buy as much ground as you want.
You got to have a little cash, though. But yeah.
And I think to touch on
you got to have a lot of cash.
What Mr. Herring was saying, you can look at economic development now in 2 ways. The rule that we're kind of following with the paved hard surface, 2.5 acre, as we develop these gravel roads into hard surface, that also improves the economic development of that area from 5 to 2.5 acre zones. So it kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
And it also preserves agriculture. If you're going to build on 2.5 acres out by the road, you still got a lot of farm ground you have to do.
Yeah, you're not wasting the ground. The 5 acre.
You're not wasting the ground for somebody to just mow it.
Crystal, I'm trying to look at a map here. That would be coming out of Tonganoxie. It would be McLouth Road to Sandusky until Sandusky meets Evans.
Yep.
And then Evans
goes to the county line.
over to the county line.
That mark without looking it up.
Well, I'm sure you could. I can't.
We got to move you out to our county, Mark.
You need to get out of the office.
I'm not saying I haven't driven that road. I'm just saying I don't know the number.
Maybe you talk to Mr. Dole about getting a snow plow or something. Going on, taking all the snow routes. But, yeah, that would be the route. It'd probably be the simplest.
And then whatever changes Commissioner Calder's had.
Does anybody have any questions? More questions of Crystal?
Oh, I didn't see the glossary. Do you have that glossary up there?
So that is kind of my point. Hold on. We've identified a couple of terms, but that staff felt were maybe difficult, and Ken may be able to speak to this better than I can. But the commissioners did not give us. They didn't say we need a glossary of these terms. We don't understand these terms. They just said maybe a glossary.
Well, a glossary is something that could be really easily incorporated later.
Exactly.
Once you adopt the plan.
Kim Boone with Auction Heron Hair, the Olson Studio. In reference to the glossary, all of the words introduced into the document are defined when those words are introduced. So they are all defined throughout the document as you encounter them. So the definitions of all of those things are in the flow of the document. There isn't a separate glossary for that, because then they can be taken out of context it's more important for us when we're writing it that it's in the flow of the document, so it's defined in context of the things that are being defined around it. So that's why it's like that. Everything is defined within the document itself, in the flow of the text.
So would we have had to pay more, Ken, to get a glossary with a reference to a page number?
We are not including a glossary at the time, right?
Change order.
I think the reality is, no offense, it's that somebody's going to hear a term or a term's going to be associated with a parcel or a piece of property, and they're not going to be familiar with all 423 pages, and they may not read all 423 pages. So it would be great if they could reference a place to not only learn more about that word, but to your point, to not take it out of context, maybe provide a page number. You can find this on page 218, and you can pull the whole excerpt, or you can read the whole page, or whatever you want. But 423 pages, when you're not the author of it, can be daunting for some.
I think we should develop a glossary, but it doesn't necessarily have to be done today. But it really would help, because this is a lot of stuff to plow through if you were just picking it up, do some light bedtime reading.
And I might actually make a recommendation in regards to that. We know it's a 423-page document. 125 pages of that is actually the comp plan. The other stuff is the summary of all of the engagement that was done. And then the other piece is a almost 200-page market study. So one of the reasons we'd like for it to live online, because we think you should do that, is to separate the appendix from the doc, so that when people want to download the doc, they're not printing off that extra 300 pages. That is purely reference material that most people are not going to be interested in looking through anyway. The real comp plan is really about 125 pages in total, which is...
I wouldn't discount our residents. We got some pretty thorough...
Yeah, well, that's great. So they would both live there.
Yeah, we can throw this one out.
They would live as appendix there in the online, and you'd have a full doc, and then you would, with appendices, and then
we have residents in my memorized portions of this. So, there you go.
So, one question, Ken.
Yes, sir.
On the needs of the county was the high-speed internet. I mean, how do we? And I believe that need has grown even more with the school system and a lot of people working from home. How do we get to where we need to be on that?
Well, I think a lot of this comes down to, one, a very clear demonstrated need across the entire country for rural high-speed broadband has been clearly demonstrated here, right? The pandemic has shown everybody that connectivity is a basic infrastructure need for this country. So I think that's going to move forward. The reason we think it's important in the doc is that the county recognizes that's important to the residents of the county, and now we have to figure out a way to get together to do that. There are, for instance, Olson does a lot of that kind of work. A lot of that rural broadband, bringing that to portions of counties and communities that don't have that, right? So you have to work with the providers, and then you have to understand their systems and what their needs are. And so in the old day, they just say, oh, there's not enough people, we're really not going to get there. You have to stay on that discussion. That discussion is ever more relevant now, and that's a revenue stream for them that if you can figure out a way to tap into that for them, then they're going to be open to that. So you're going to have to, like anything, start with a group, have that group be tenacious in getting to the providers and what they can do, work with your state and governments so they understand, which they clearly understand now, how important this is.
It was important before the pandemic. It's real important now.
Absolutely. So there's going to be way more focus, and we know there is because we're doing that work, way more focus on rural broadband right now. And so you have to, from our standpoint, it's a policy issue, right? This is important for us. We're going to put people together, a commission, a group, whatever, to attack this as a thing, right? And we're going to stay on it. And we're going to keep going back and letting them know that this is important to us. How do we solve this issue? I don't know how else to do it. Because in the end, the providers are the ones who can just say yes or no. So that's the only way you're going to move forward. I assume the CARES money is going to continue. That's going to be a focus of infrastructure.
Well, I'm hoping so because sure, even back when they were running rural water lines, there was to get stuff out in the rural area. I mean, there had to be some assistance to help with that. But it's just kind of very concerning that was the number one need prior to the pandemic, and it's really accelerated since then.
A sophisticated idea that bubbled to the top. We were shocked by it. How important it was to your residents, the way they voiced their opinion on that. We would have never guessed that was that high.
Right.
But now,
especially when it was an online survey and most of the county couldn't participate,
and in person, it was up in person as well. Boy, talk about foresight.
And that's why, like on the 2.5 acre thing, I think it's people are wanting to move out or get out of the city, and they're coming out here, and they are working from home.
Yeah.
Because our home sales have definitely not declined any, and the prices have definitely not went down on homes. I mean, there's bidding wars on homes being sold. So,
this is going to be a major infrastructure shift. I think is providing coverage to everyone.
We'll just add that to our list on our pre-legislative meetings.
For sure.
After the elections, I think some of us plan on meeting with some folks. So, any other questions, Mr. Boone?
How does this plan compare? I mean, I know you do a lot of municipalities and a lot of counties, and how would you compare this plan to others, or is it pretty much a template that's being put into effect in the various counties with a few tweaks here and there? Or how would you compare Leavenworth counties to neighboring counties?
So our approach, I can only speak to our approach on how these are done, but this is a process that is designed for your community. So from top to bottom, start to finish, this was about Leavenworth County. So there's no templates here, there's no nothing. Process, we know how to get the information we need to make decisions. So the process itself, we use repeatedly, but every plan is completely different in the way that it approaches the issues for each community.
So no comments on differences in the various counties?
Well, every county is different. Every county has different issues and concerns depending on their level of urbanism, the level of communities that they have in there, and actually how much actual county-specific property, roads, et cetera, that they have to be worried about, maintain, et cetera. So looking at Leavenworth County is completely different than Jackson County or Johnson County or Miami County or Lafayette County in Missouri. They're all completely different, every one of them. But there are similarities, I would tell you, some of the issues that show up. So the issues about broadband have already showed up in another county plan that we're doing. And they showed up almost day one. We need to get connectivity. And the issues that you are dealing with between sprawl and putting people out in the county and not having infrastructure to serve them and thereby increasing your service area and some of those things, that's something that every county wrestles with until those areas become part of cities. So there's some thematically, there's some very similar things that everybody deals with, especially if they have more ag or rural, and some of the really urbanized counties like Johnson and Jackson, the issues are completely different than yours.
We see on the news.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions?
I had a brief presentation, but your exceptional staff has already covered any of that material that I was going to cover. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ken.
You bet.
Thanks, Ken.
You ready for a motion?
I am.
Make a motion we approve Resolution 2020-41 adopting the 2020 Leavenworth County Comprehensive Plan, which includes the annual review and
the amendment to the zoning district.
And the amendment to the updates that we discussed.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the comprehensive plan?
I just this is maybe for Mark. How much did this plan cost the county taxpayers?
$280, wasn't it?
$330.
It was close to $300,000.
Close to $300,000.
Yes.
Break that down over since the last one was done and set on the shelf.
About $10,000 a year.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
All right.
All depends how you look at it.
I actually, when I was running 4 years ago, I actually campaigned on getting a comp plan, and
I did too.
so.
Well, this is here it is.
I know it took 4 years, but but that's all right. And like I said, I know we would have had this done beginning of, right after the first year if the world hadn't have changed. I mean, we just had to put everything on hold. And
well, and I think it's always under the importance is never brought up enough that your comp plan drives your zoning map, and your zoning map keeps you out of trouble in a lot of cases as far as businesses wanting to come into a certain area, if it's zoned for that or not.
mm-hmm.
So without a comp plan and a zoning map, you're setting yourself up for trouble.
So do we need to, this needs to be reviewed by the Planning Commission exactly 1 year start. They can redo it and then make recommendations to us.
Commissioner, excuse me, the statute actually references that the Planning Commission would submit recommended amendments to the comprehensive plan, if there are any, on or before July 1 of each year.
Okay.
So I believe with your staff's assistance, the Planning Commission will probably begin the review of the comprehensive plan in January.
Okay.
And you'll have that on their agenda on a regular basis.
Yeah, so what I would like to do is we will set up a couple of special meetings, and those will just kind of be built in that will be specifically for reviewing the comprehensive plan as opposed to trying to fit that onto an existing meeting.
Like I said, I want to make sure we revisit this every year.
And then the next natural step would be updating the zoning map from the adoption of the new comp plan. Correct?
Well,
Commissioner Culbertson and Commissioners, the comprehensive plan serves as a guidebook for zoning that would take place at future times. It would not be necessary to immediately change your current zoning, but changes to that zoning as they occurred should be in conformity with the plan.
So the County Road 1 land use study, where does that fall into this then?
That study should comply with the comprehensive plan, and I believe the reason for putting the County Road 1 study rezoning issue off was so that you could have the plan first and then implementing that plan through the rezoning.
Okay.
So if a person is currently zoned on R5, and after we had addressed this change in land use plan, then they go before the Planning Commission. Planning Commission can make changes in accordance to the land use plan.
Well, if they're currently R5 and you adopt this plan, they will be R5. They will remain R5 until an actual zoning change is considered by the Planning Commission and approved by this board.
Okay, so this is just the beginning of a process, basically.
This is a roadmap. This is a roadmap for future development. A roadmap doesn't indicate that you're going to drive on every road on it. It just provides you an overall view of the development of the county.
Any further discussion? Then voting.
Aye.
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 Commissioner Collins votes aye.
All right, thank you.
thank you, Commissioners.
That's a big deal.
I know.
Got across the finish line.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
We
you.
will get those changes, and we'll get it done.
Crystal, well done. It would be scary to know how many hours you actually have associated with this, but much appreciated.
That's part of.
Well, yeah, but
There's more to come. There's more to come.
We got lots of things to do, don't we?
we do. But,
Now we got a zoning map to change.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
Any, are you good? Commissioner Shempke, were you going to take care of the Port Authority?
It's at 11:30.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna at least join for part of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I was going to be on there too.
Okay, you'll be there. Port Authority's covered. All right.
Zooming in.
Do we need to do anything, like have a work session with the recent donation of St. Luke's Cushing to this board on what we're going to do with that, and reach out to organizations to see if there's a need? They don't want it to set very long.
Yeah, I know. I think there needs to be some in-depth discussion on what we intend the usage for that facility to be, and how we direct that development of the building. I know we have some internal needs, obviously, that the building could fulfill, and there are maybe some agencies that we provide annual funding to that could potentially utilize space within there. But it's close to 100,000 square feet. Not all of that would be usable as some of it's storage only, but
Right.
It's still a huge building.
Mm-hmm.
And there will also be some improvements that are going to have to be made. I mean, we need to get probably a more in-depth analysis. We know there's some heating and cooling issues that have to be addressed on the building. We want to make sure the roof is up to specs, make sure there's no leaks or anything. But there's obviously going to be some improvements that need to be made. But regardless, the building's a multi-million-dollar facility, so even if we put some money into it to bring it up to where we need it to be, it's still a great investment for the county, a great opportunity. But yes, I think we do.
Like I said, I would like to get right on it, and really what concerns me is the maintenance of the building. I don't believe we have the staff to be able to take care of that.
No,
is there
we don't.
Is there a current maintenance contract that we could maybe take over?
They use a company to provide all that for them. They have some staff that's their staff, but they use a company to provide most of the maintenance related issues. I would anticipate that would be the county's direction too, that we would contract with someone, whether it be that vendor or another vendor. I think.
I didn't know if they still had a contract with it. We could just take it over and then go from there, because I don't want to see anything fall through the cracks here.
Yeah. And then, technically, while we are accepting the donation, there are a few things that still have to be completed. We're still waiting on the environmental study to be done. So the effective date won't be until the end of November. That'll be on next week's agenda for you all to approve that document. But we're in the process of getting that environmental study completed.
Okay. Well, said as soon as we take possession, I'd really like to see something go on out there. Whether it's some updates or remodel or maintenance that we need to perform. And then have a work session to see how we're going to start filling the building up.
No, agreed.
Because that was a very generous donation.
Yes.
We're very lucky.
I agree.
Commissioner Cos, go ahead.
I just said I completely agree. It was a very generous donation, and we probably do need to have a work session to begin discussing how we want to move forward and what we want to do with the building.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't want to leave it set. So, all right, is there any other business for this board?
This is Commissioner Cos. Just one thing. We just want to remind everybody that the election is will be next Tuesday, which is the final day to vote. But anybody that can, go ahead and vote in advance. And regardless of what you think or who you support, vote.
Absolutely. And the people on the mail-in ballots, we got to get them in. And we have early voting. And I feel sorry for all the workers down there in the clerk's office. They look like they've been very busy.
When do we wind down here?
Yes. Yeah. It's noon on Monday, and then it goes to the poll, because the next day are the.
Well, I saw. There was some.
Open.
There were some good posts out there just reminding everybody locations and hours and days. I just couldn't remember specifically.
Yeah.
We're Monday at noon.
The advanced voting closes at that time.
Okay. We don't have anything else?
And the drop-off boxes are at the City Hall in Lansing, City Hall in Leavenworth, across the street from the building, at the Baser Library, and at our annex, and at the courthouse.
Okay.
One thing, the CARES Act submission deadline was the first. Are you going to continue to accept it to the second?
Because it's Sunday.
Sure.
And you do have a submission from Linwood has put their submission in, correct?
Linwood submitted a request, a proposal, I should say. It's not really a request for funds because they haven't actually obligated expenditures yet, but they submitted a proposal that would, and I've communicated to them that would meet the guidelines of the CARES Act funding and provide them with the necessary spreadsheet that they need to submit when they actually need reimbursement.
And Reno Township, if they...
I would have to check. Sometimes those folks are emailing directly to the staff that's cutting the checks, so I would have to check, but I don't recall seeing anything from Reno Township.
Okay, theirs was turned back because there was a new form to fill out.
Yeah, I remember the first one, but I don't think I've seen the return, but it could be it went straight to...
He's working on theirs. We were working on it last night, so it's coming.
So
I'm glad you said Monday is still...
He does have the copy of Linwood. So.
Okay. I get it.
I won't be checking Sunday night to see if they've been submitted. So if they are here on Monday, I'm sure we would accept those.
Very good.
And Mark, this is Vicki. When will we begin to review the grant applications that we've received from nonprofits?
We will start that in November. It probably won't be the first week of November because I do need the clerk to participate in that, and she's still pretty heavily involved, obviously, with the election at that time. So probably the second or third week of November, we will start scheduling those for review.
Okay.
Thanks.
Is Veterans Day on?
Now we need to figure out what day we're going to have our meeting on the week of Veterans Day because it's on the 11th is on a Wednesday.
Yes.
So are we looking at Monday?
How about Tuesday?
Tuesday? It doesn't matter to me what day.
Tuesday's easier for me.
Okay. Tuesday good for you? Then
So we'll move it to
Tuesday,
November 10th,
on the
Tuesday,
10th.
9 a.m.
That work for everybody?
When we publish the agenda for that week, we'll make sure that is
Does that work
noted.
for you, Vicki?
Yes, it does.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else? Is it a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.